was the Zoom address in the
Physical address, no, but the Zoom should be in the email. If not, after the service, let's go check and make sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have any problems, you just let me know. Yes.
Is it on the floor?
Well, it's not until next Friday.
The Zoom?
We can like.
You're supposed to be sitting on the floor with my camera.
Oh, yeah, hey, look,
It's not working on that side. It's not working on that side.
yeah, in August, I said, yes, so,
Yeah, it should be the other
schedule,
side.
so, yeah, but I'm gonna make sure, I'll make sure of making that connection. What,
But then we're not working on that.
like tomorrow, we do.
Okay.
I will,
It's not working on the right side?
yeah, I was just gonna say, you're on the way back.
Yesterday, maybe it's the bottom.
Last day.
It's the practice
Like rent.
That's a no-brainer, because I think otherwise it'd be impossible to get a sheet. I'll see it off. It's gonna be on the pulpit, but if you do it, yeah. I think so.
Well, I'm glad you did.
It's really fascinating, right? And I think the thing about a book like that is like, some of them are better and some of them are worse, but like, they're all short enough that you can read them, straight down, maybe go down.
Oh, Jen.
That's great.
It's so on.
And that was the right place to do it.
Figure that out.
All right. So, hopefully, well, it is, but the idea of it is so that it doesn't have to be under the service. Because once people come into this country, it goes up like crazy. So, but I can now control it from my iPad. So I now have it set up to be
I feel like it's the most wild.
so that
She
it
raised
kind of should be, which tells me because I can stop the thing about it like this also is it's not as hot. So like on any given day, this room is the hardest room, and I talked to Seth, I talked to it's a challenge without having done a whole lot of
When she was back
consulting.
being a lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, this whole room is cool from this. And no matter what you do, the air's gonna blow and sun's directly up at the end. My idea was to try to,
But there's no problem.
He's very smart.
See over there?
It's very short term. Jonathan Ornstein.
When you're from Poland.
From is a complicated concept, but let's call it from Poland.
Okay,
I live in Poland now. Okay.
my grandparents came from Poland. On the border.
That's okay. We almost didn't make it. You know, it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Welcome. Is this your first time? It is? I want to make it feel welcome. You feel welcome?
You guys,
Okay. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. It's wonderful to see all of you, and it is especially wonderful to welcome back our guests of honor for our Friday evening service. It's very cute. So those of you that may remember those days not so long ago when we were at the Whalers Church down the street while the building was being renovated, and we were, picture in your mind's eye sitting in what basically was a parking lot and having services outside and all of that, we had the privilege of welcoming Jonathan Ornstein as our guest speaker then. And we are very happy to welcome him back tonight, and especially to welcome the whole family back, because that is my mental image of when you were here, except that Aya was still a babe, a total babe. I think that may have been your first trip around the world, if I'm not mistaken. And so we welcome Kasha and Aya and Jonathan back here to Sag Harbor and to tell us a bit about what's been going on in Poland since the last time that we saw you, which I suspect is a lot of things to cover. So in a bit, we'll give you a proper introduction, and I'll invite our co-president, Ron Klausner, up to do that introduction, not just because he's great at doing introductions, but because without him and without a certain amount of kismet, this might not have happened, because the whole reason that we are really here together tonight is we were in New York City. We were at the World Jewish Congress dinner, and at our table, we were lucky enough, and I don't think just luck, I think a mutual friend of ours, right, our good friend Ronald Lauder, Ambassador Lauder, put us at the same table, and Ron asks, Jonathan, are you coming out to the East End by any chance? And sometimes the things work out. And it's an important conversation for tonight, an important conversation for always, and we are really excited to have you all here, and to welcome, of course, all of you. Before we get started with lighting candles in our service, why don't we just take a moment to wish each other a Shabbat Shalom. And I'll emphasize, because I think I should lead with this next time, especially if you don't recognize the person that you're saying Shabbat Shalom to. Say your names, introduce yourselves, get to know each other. These are all important parts of who we are, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Okay. And again, if I'm not imposing, I'd like to ask Vicky and Kasha if you would help to join us on the bima. We have been lighting 2 sets of Shabbat candles here in Sag Harbor. Unfortunately, since October 7th, we light 1 set of candles for us and 1 set of candles for the hostages, who we hope each Shabbat will be brought home and be able to light again in peace and in safety. And we're on page 120. I don't know if this is No, these work, but sometimes it presents a challenge. So I'll do the lighting, and more important, you do the blessing. Thank you.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו אחרי נר של שבת.
Amen. Thank you guys so much for doing it. I did great. You're a natural. So, for those that may be, again, joining us for the first time, or for our guests, we're just in that strange in-between space between when our previous student cantor, Will, left us last week, and our incoming student cantor, Emma, will join us next week, which means that you are stuck with me, which means I always say, sing extra loud, okay? I want to hear all your voices tonight, all the people online. I want them to hear us in Poland. We'll sing together as we begin our service on page 130. Again, page 130 toward the very top of the page. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, ladonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, ladonai. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu nekad mahafana vetoda. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu mizmihirot naria lo. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, ladonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, ladonai. We're now on page 131, just where the Hebrew begins, in the middle of the page. Shiru ladonai, shiru shir chadash, shiru ladonai, kol haaretz, shiru ladonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, yeshuatom, shiru ladonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, yeshuato, shiru ladonai, shiru shir chadash, shiru ladonai, kol haaretz, shiru ladonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, yeshuato, shiru ladonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom, yeshuato. We'll turn now to page 132, or Zarua, which is just toward the bottom of the page. Or Zarua la tzadik, uleishre lev simcha. Or Zarua la tzadik, uleishre lev simcha. Simechu tzadikim b'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho. Simechu tzadikim b'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho. We'll turn now to page 134. Zamru ladonai bechinor, bechinor bekol zimra, bachatzotrot bekol shofar, ahariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yiram hayamum lo, tevel veyoshveva, necharot imcha uchaf yachad, harim yiranenu, lifnei Adonai kiva, lishbot haaretz, yishbot tevel betzedek, vehamim b'mesharim, Yiram hayamum lo, tevel veyoshveva, neharot imcha
uchaf yachad harim yiradenu. We're now on page 135, the last Hebrew paragraph in the middle of the page. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. We'll turn now to the 29th Psalm on page 136. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, havu l'Adonai kevod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai hamayim, el kavod hirim, Adonai al mahayim rabim, Adonai al mahayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, kol Adonai behadar, kol Adonai shover harazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, vayarkidehem kemo egel, Lebanon ve'Sirion, kemo ben re'emim, kemo ben re'emim. Kol Adonai chotzev lahabotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel layalot, Vayechesov ye'arot, Uvechalo kulo merkavod, Kulo merkavod, kulo merkavod. Adonai lamahabu yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz lehamu yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. You know, it's funny, when we have student cantors, I always say they have an impact when they don't even realize it. Each cantor has a slightly different cadence, a certain way of ending things, and I always pick up things of theirs that even when they're gone, and I just realized I had one of those will moments, so it's really very sweet. Very sweet. We'll turn to page 138 for Lechado D. A reminder, we'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraph. And for the final one, we'll rise for those that are in the room with us, and we'll face the doors we walked through just a few moments ago. Lechado D likrat kalai alanai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechado D likrat kalai alanai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor vezachor bedimbur echad, Hishmianu el hameyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shemu tiferet ve'litila. Lechado di likrat kalai alanai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechado Lechadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila lechadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela hitoreri kiva orech kumi uri shir daberi gevod Adonai halayich nigla lechadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela boi v'shalom ateret v'hala gam besimcha uvetzola toch emunei am segula boi chala lechadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. You are a wonderful dancer, and you can dance anytime. We love dancing here. You can dance anytime that you want. Okay? Beautiful dance. We're going to turn to page 140. Tzadik Katamar is in the Hebrew, just write indents in the middle of the page. Tzadik Katamar yifrach keres bahal banon yizke shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva teshenim verananim yihu lehagin ki ashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatabo. We'll turn now to the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. We'll rise in body or spirit and remain standing for the Baruch Hu on the next page. Yitkadal vehitkadash shemei rabba ve'alma divrach chirutei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'gala ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי העלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתבר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה Damiran behalma, veimeru, amen. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach, leolam vaed. Please be seated. We'll turn now to the top of page 149 and we'll read together in English. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Umahavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven lahaila, Adonai tzvahot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam vaed, Baruch atah Adonai amari v'arahavim. We'll turn now to the top of page 151. We'll read together in English. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Ki ehem chayenu ve'orech yaminu, uvahem nege yomam v'lahayla, Bavatcha al tasir mimenu liolamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Please join me on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We'll turn now to the top of page 157 as we read together in English and then quickly on to the next page for Mi Chamocha. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. As we turn to the top again of page 158. Yabai bai bim 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 bam, yabai bai bim bam, yabai bai bim 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 bam, yabai bai bim bam. Yai bye ba 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 bye ya ba bye bye bim bam. Yai bye ba 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 bye ya ba bye bye bim bam. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nor tehilot osefele. Nor tehilot Oh, say felle, ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba 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 bye, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba 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 bye, ya bye bye bim bam. Malachutecha ra'u vanecha, בוקעם לפני משה מרים זה ליאנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פד אדוני את יעקב גואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu is on the top of page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeteinu uvoeinu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. We turn now to the top of page 162. Veshamru bnei Israel et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. I'll now invite us to rise in body or spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. From that point on, we will continue silently. As always, please go at your own pace, and when you're finished at the end, if you're still standing, you may be seated. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We'll turn now to the middle of page 371 as we prepare to offer our healing prayer, Misha Berach, for this evening. I'll invite us all just to take a few moments of silent reflection to think of the people in your lives that you may be praying for this evening, and of course also to make space for the many places in our world that are in need of healing beyond those most immediately connected to us. Again, we join together in the middle of page 371. Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We now offer our prayer for Israel in time of war. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, you know that the Jewish people are one nation with one heart, and now that heart is broken. O healer of broken hearts, binder of their wounds, be with our brothers and sisters who've been taken captive and with the families of the victims. Watch over the hostages, break their bonds, and bring them out from darkness to light. Proclaim release to the captives, liberation to the imprisoned. Comfort the families, bring them under the shelter of your wings. Bring complete healing of body and spirit to all of the wounded. Bind up our wounds and grant us healing. Tzur Yisrael v'goalo, rock and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, the initial manifestation of our redemption. Shield it with your care, spread over it your shelter of peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Grace them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend us. Crown their efforts with victory. Bless the land with peace, its inhabitants with lasting joy. Shomer Yisrael, guardian of Israel. Strengthen and bless the defenders of Israel who stand guard on the land, in the air, and on the sea. May we see the promise of the psalmist realized. You turned my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robes of joy. God, protect, preserve, and restore peace and well-being to Israel, your people, and together we say, Amen. It is now my privilege to invite up our co-president, Ron Klausner, who will introduce our guest speaker for this evening. And Ron, I think actually this lectern is better, and Jonathan, when you come speak, take care of it.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm here to introduce Jonathan Ornstein, who's going to talk about Poland's Jewish rebirth, what's going on, and why it matters to us. Jonathan is Chief Executive Officer of JCC Krakow. He's also a primary architect of Poland's contemporary Jewish rebirth, is a frequent international speaker and media contributor on topics including Jewish Poland and global anti-Semitism, as well as being an activist for Holocaust survivors. Jonathan has served as CEO for JCC Krakow since King Charles opened the center in 2008 with the mission of rebuilding Jewish life in Krakow. The JCC has grown exponentially to include 1,100 Jewish members. It also welcomes 10,000 visitors each month and is one of the most visible signs of Poland's Jewish revival. Jonathan created Ride for the Living and Holocaust Survivor Day, global initiatives that engage tens of thousands of people. After the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022, he initiated and directs JCC Krakow's humanitarian aid operation, having assisted almost 400,000 refugees and counting. A native of New York City, Jonathan moved to Israel in 1994, lived for 7 years on a kibbutz in the Negev desert, and as a lone soldier, served in an IDF combat unit before moving to Poland in 2001. Prior to launching the JCC, he taught modern Hebrew at the Jagiellonian Poland University for 6 years and founded the Gesher Association for Polish-Israeli Dialogue. He is a founding member of the Krakow Association of Christians and Jews, where he serves as the vice president. He also serves on the boards of the Krakow branch of Child Survivors of the Holocaust, Hillel Poland, JCC Global, and the Abraham Global Peace Initiative. Let's give a warm welcome to Jonathan Ornstein.
That's the full Monty. I realize that my bio gives away just about everything that I'm going to talk about, so I might have to adjust that and not give it all away. Well, thank you. It's an honor to be back here. It's an honor to be invited indoors. It was fun. It was a lot of fun being outside, but it's what a beautiful renovation, and your community is really blessed to be here. We're a people of stories, and I'm going to tell you 2 stories. But in between those stories, I'm going to have to bunch a little bit of information in there to give us some context. So the first story, there was a young woman who came to the JCC a few years ago, probably 5, 6 years ago already, and she was very agitated, and she asked to see a rabbi. And my father would have been very happy if I were that rabbi, but unfortunately life took a different turn. Unfortunately for him, at least. And so there was no rabbi around, but they brought her up to my office. She was in her early 20s. Her name was Maria. And I said, Maria, how can I help you? And she's just really, clearly agitated. And I said, don't worry, it's fine. You're in the right place. Tell me what's going on. And she says, I got to tell you this story. My grandmother, a few days ago, called me and told me something unbelievable. Her grandmother was in her mid-80s at this point. Grandmother says, Maria, come right over. Says, you okay? You're okay, Grandma? Everything okay? Yes, I'm fine. Just come right over. She goes over to her grandmother's house. Grandmother sits her down on the bed and says, I have to tell you something that I've never told anyone. Now, Maria, like just about everybody else in Poland, is a seemingly Polish Catholic person. No idea about anything else in her family background. Maria's grandmother tells the story. I was a little girl in the ghetto, and one day my parents took me to the edge of the ghetto, and they got on their knees, and her grandmother was a little girl at this point, 4 or 5 years old, they got down on their knees, and they told me 2 things. They said, be a good girl, never tell anyone you're Jewish. And they passed her through the ghetto wall to somebody who smuggled her out, brought her to a Polish Christian family who raised her. She always knew who she was, and she kept her promise to her parents. Married, children, grandchildren, career, all of it, and never told a soul about her Jewish background until she sat her eldest granddaughter down and told her this story. And she said, Maria, I was a good girl. I never told, and I never could find out what it meant, who I am. Go find out what it means. And Maria literally takes her phone and Googles Jewish Krakow, sees there's a JCC, comes over the next day or 2 days later and is sitting in my office telling me this story. And I was like, I mean, this is what I do, people rebuilding Jewish life, as we heard. But, you know, I don't hear a story like this every day. So, of course, I have to play it cool and not make her think like, oh my God, what a crazy. I was like, oh, is that it? Like, that's the whole story? You know, like, so I said, oh, you know, that no problem, you know, great. And she goes, well, what do I do? And she goes, I go, well, you'll come to a Shabbat dinner. And of course she says, what's a Shabbat dinner? How does Maria know what a Shabbat dinner? So Maria comes to a Shabbat dinner and she meets other people and she starts to understand that there are many others like her in our community. She goes on birthright, she goes to Israel, and she has now rejoined our Jewish community. And what's remarkable about her story, besides the drama of a more or less deathbed confession of Jewish identity, I think what's remarkable is how unremarkable that is today in Poland. This is what's happening. This is the story of Jewish revival today in Poland, including my wife, including Kasha, who grew up without knowing she was Jewish, found out, came to a Hanukkah party where we met, and now we have a shockingly well-behaved three-year-old daughter who goes to our preschool, which is the first Jewish preschool to open in Krakow since the Holocaust. Now, how do we get to this point? In 2025 or over the last few years, with people coming out of the woodwork and finding out they're Jewish. It's not obvious. We might think, when we hear finding out you're Jewish, we think, I think, for me, Madeleine Albright. Like, that's the story. Oh, Madeleine Albright. But it's not constantly what's happening. But in Poland, that's the norm. Well, I'm not going to shock you if I tell you I think that Poland was a very Jewish place for a very long time. 3.5 million Jews lived in Poland on the edge of World War II, 1939. 60% of the lawyers and 40% of the doctors in Poland were Jewish. Now, why do I tell you this? Because we often think that the Jews were living separately. They weren't part of mainstream Polish society. 60% of the lawyers in Poland were Jewish. Cities like Warsaw were a third Jewish, Krakow, where I live, a quarter Jewish, right? There are no places on earth, no cities on earth as Jewish outside of Israel as these places in Poland were before the war. 1,000 years of Jewish history. Poland was 10% Jewish. The Nazis invade from one side, 16 days later the Soviet Union invades from the other side, and by the end of World War II, the Nazis and their accomplices across Europe have murdered 6 million Jews, among them 3.1 million Polish Jews. So more than half the victims of the Holocaust, Polish Jews. 90% of Polish Jews were murdered. And for us, generally, as American Jews, Israeli Jews, the narrative is Jews lived in Poland, Jews were murdered in Poland, some were lucky enough to survive, the survivors left, end of story. Now Poland is a place where we go to see Jewish shadows, Jewish ghosts, and that's it. But not all the Jews left Poland. Some of the Jews stayed, and during communism, behind the Iron Curtain, there was anti-Semitism yet again, and the Jews had to do something that our people has had to do far too often in our history. What did the remaining Jews in Poland do? They went underground. They hid their identity. And to protect their children and their families, they didn't tell them that they were Jewish. That's how you would protect your family. You wouldn't burden them with being Jewish and have them having to face anti-Semitism. So a generation, even a generation and a half, 2 generations grew up without knowing they were Jewish. 1989, communism ends in Poland, and 2 things begin that are continuing to this day. And one is dependent on the second one. The first thing that begins is non-Jews become very interested in everything Jewish. But I mean really interested in everything Jewish. Jewish studies departments at universities, Jewish museums, klezmer music becomes popular, they start to write books, they start Jewish culture festivals. The largest Jewish culture festival outside of Israel in the world is not in Brooklyn and not on the Upper West Side, I'm helping you out here, Krakow. Krakow, Poland is home to the world's largest, arguably largest Jewish culture festival, started 30-something years ago by 2 Polish non-Jews, one of whom is still running it, right? Now this is strange for us. First of all, this amount of non-Jewish interest in anything Jewish for us, we're skeptical. We as Jews we don't embrace that. We're skeptical. Why are we skeptical? Because throughout our history, it hasn't necessarily worked out very well when non-Jews have paid a lot of attention to us, right? So we keep it at arm's length. It's a little creepy for us. But on top of it, this isn't anywhere we're talking about, right? This isn't just some random country. This is Poland. This is the place that we so strongly associate with death and tragedy and the Holocaust. So we're doubly skeptical. But this is the reality that I live in. I've been living there for 22, 23 years. And this backdrop, this non-Jewish interest in all things Jewish, might just be a curiosity. Wow, there's a country that used to be very Jewish, and now there's no Jews, and all the non-Jews are crazy, or a lot of the non-Jews are crazy about the Jews. Yay, but why does it move the needle for us necessarily? Well, why it does and why I think it's led to something which is historically significant for the Jewish people is because that non-Jewish interest in everything Jewish has created an environment in Poland that we have today, which is relevant because the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, like my wife, of Holocaust survivors and Holocaust victims are now finding out they're Jewish. That's only half the story. Finding out they're Jewish isn't enough. If you find out you're Jewish in a place with great anti-Semitism, what aren't you going to do? Say you're Jewish. Get involved, right? So this atmosphere created by these non-Jews has led to a situation where these young people, at this point not only young people, are finding out they're actually Jewish and coming out of the woodwork to stand up and be counted. So it's a Jewish community that's growing. If you Google how many Jews are in Krakow, or to keep up with the times, if you use ChatGPT to ask how many Jews are in Krakow, it'll say there are 100 Jews in Krakow. And as we already heard from Ron, there are 1,100 Jewish members and growing, community growing at our JCC. So clearly something is up. Tells us two things. If you have 100 Jews and we have 1,100 Jewish members, what does it tell us? Two things. One, we're doing a pretty good job of attracting the Jewish community if we have 11 Jewish members for every Jew. And two, clearly it tells us that the numbers are nonsense, and we have no idea how many Jews there are in Poland, but we understand there are a lot more than we thought there were. So what's going on at our JCC? It's like if you have one Jewish building and you keep it open in town and you close every other Jewish building, God forbid, that's kind of what our JCC is. So Sunday school, preschool that I mentioned, the first Jewish preschool, family program, BBYO, run through our JCC. Hillel, 200 students, run in conjunction with our JCC. True to our original mission to take care of Holocaust survivors, we have 58 Holocaust survivors that we're caring for. They have dedicated space in the building. There's no federation, there's no Jewish Family Services, that's us. There's no self-help. That's us directly caring for 58 Holocaust survivors. Directly caring means besides that they have activities and dedicated space in our building. During COVID, we called them twice a week. We did all their shopping for 2 years to keep them all safe, all their grocery shopping that we delivered to them. If we're housing some of them, feeding them, deals with local restaurants. If somebody has a leaky roof, we're the ones providing it. We have Shabbat dinner every week for 100, 150 people every single week of the year. We have mentioned 10,000 visitors a month. We have 300 people studying Hebrew. We have Yiddish class, Arabic class. We publish a newspaper. We have a genealogist. We have a Jewish choir, which, by the way, is considered the best Jewish choir in Krakow, which is something we're very proud of. I will not transmit your laughter back to the choir. They take themselves very seriously, as they should. And in a world of increased anti-Semitism, where we're playing a lot of defense, and where we're worried about the fact that our children have it in many ways more difficult than we do, Jewish life is thriving and growing in Krakow. Now, why does this matter? The community is tiny, 1,100 Jews. It sounds good when you think there are 100, but still, we live in a world of, America, 6 million Jews, New York, 2 million. We live in a world of a lot of, places that are, 1,100 is not necessarily an earth-moving number. Why is this relevant? Well, who are these lost Jews? A few reasons. These lost Jews, who are they? Right? Who are these people finding out they're Jewish? Well, these are, I touched on it earlier, the descendants of either Holocaust victims or Holocaust survivors. And What debt do we owe the victims of the Holocaust? Right? We build museums, and we have Yom HaShoah, and we have January 27th, and we light candles, and we say never again, and we do a lot to honor the memory of the victims. But let's say the victims are looking down and watching us. Now, you can take that literally, you can take it figuratively. However, in some sense, victims of the Holocaust are with us. What greater thing could we do for the victims of the Holocaust than to go out and find their lost descendants and bring them back into the fold? For the last 665 days, we have been painfully aware, and you walk in the beautiful synagogue, you see their faces. When our brothers and sisters are left behind, we do everything we can. We move heaven and earth to bring them back into the fold. These Jews, like Maria, like my wife, these are secondary victims of the Holocaust that were left behind. And when we learn about this 6 million number, a number that we've grown up with, right? 6 million Jews murdered, 6 million Jews murdered. The 6 million number doesn't tell the entire story. Why doesn't it tell the entire story? That's Jews murdered. There's another number, and we don't know what that number is. But what is that number? Jews lost because of the Holocaust. And the Jews murdered, we can't save. Right? What would we do? We would do anything. Right now, we have an opportunity to save a village, to save a family, to save one little girl that was murdered in the Holocaust. We would all do anything we could to do that, but we can't. But this other category, actually, we can. We can go and do all that we can and find these lost Jews, these lost secondary victims of the Holocaust, our brothers and sisters that were left behind, and do all we can and bring them back into the fold. What an opportunity that we had. Growing up in Forest Hills, going to Hebrew school, learning a lot about the Holocaust. I went to Hebrew school for 12 years, by the way. It's like, I think, practically being a rabbi. Practically smicha. We didn't learn that. I learned the 6 million is the 6 million. I never learned we could actually affect the number of Jews lost because of the Holocaust. What an amazing gift we've been given to do that. But that's not it. To say we live in a world of increased anti-Semitism, it sounds almost trite and silly to say, like we live in a world, we live in the Hamptons are beautiful. I mean, it's a painfully, embarrassingly obvious thing to say at this point of the state of the world. What message does it send anti-Semites that Jewish life is thriving in Krakow next to Auschwitz? We are the community next to Auschwitz. We're an hour's drive, a little longer on a bicycle. We do a bicycle ride from Auschwitz to the JCC. We can talk about that afterwards. Anyway, we're 50 miles, 60 miles from Auschwitz. What does it say to those who would get rid of us as a people? And many have tried throughout history. That Jewish life is not only thriving on the Upper West Side and in Palm Beach and Silver Lake and Tel Aviv. Jewish life is thriving in the community next to Auschwitz, with Jews and non-Jews working together. We have 90 non-Jewish volunteers in our little JCC. Jews and non-Jews working together to rebuild Jewish life. I think it tells them that we're not going anywhere. But beyond what it tells them, and I think far more importantly, is what it tells us, what it reminds us. It reminds us, especially our young people, mention those visitors. Why is it important that so many people visit us? First of all, because they bring me bagels. If I need bagels, I get a supply of good New York food. But it's so important that these people visit us because they are reminded how strong, especially young people, these teenagers, these students that come, reminded of how strong and resilient our people is, and we need to be reminded of that at this difficult time. We are so strong and so resilient that down the road from Auschwitz, our community is thriving once again. But it's not only about us. It's not only about us. 3.5 years ago, when the war started in Ukraine, we decided we were going to do all we could to support Ukraine. And that has meant, up until this point, directly supporting 400,000 Ukrainian refugees, housing, feeding, daycare, psychological support, job training, language classes. We continue to serve 1,000 women and children. 90% of them are women and children. 99% of them are not Jewish. So this isn't, oh, we're Jews, we take care of ourselves. Of course we do. This is us helping others. And I'll tell you another story. I mentioned 2 stories. I'm going to tell you a story that illustrates why we do it. So I mentioned 58 Holocaust survivors in Krakow. Most of them were children during the war. There's an international organization called Hidden Children, the Child Survivors of the Holocaust Organization. We have a Krakow branch. That branch meets once a month in Krakow, the last Saturday of every month at the JCC at 11 a.m. March 2022, the first meeting after the war in Ukraine started, we were having our meeting, and 11 o'clock, right across the hall is our food pantry that opened on the second day of the war. I mentioned serves 1,000 women and children a week. That number was much higher earlier in the war, and has never closed. Never closed to us means never closed. Yom Kippur, Christmas, Shabbat, New Year's Day, never closed. So we're sitting there having this meeting, and right across the hall, these women, some in wheelchairs, pushing strollers, are coming in, taking milk, diapers, cornflakes, pasta, clothing, whatever they need. And one of the Holocaust survivors, herself, who was a little girl saved from the ghetto, points to a mother walking into the room, into this food pantry, points to her, and she says, 80 years ago, that was me. 80 years ago, that was us. And she says, I propose that we take our annual dues, which for the Krakow branch of the Child Survivor of the Holocaust organization is, I believe, at the current exchange rate with a somewhat weakened dollar, $13 a year. And she says, I propose that we donate that to help these refugees, these strangers across the hall. One by one, the Holocaust survivor hands go up, and they vote unanimously to help these refugees. When your community has been the victim of genocide, as our community has been, you have 2 choices when faced with tragedy unfolding. You can say, the world didn't help us, and therefore we owe nothing to the world. Or you can say, the world didn't help us, we suffered, and we have a particular understanding of what it means to suffer. Therefore, and this, I think, is the Jewish response, and this is our community's response. Therefore, we have a particular responsibility to try to prevent the suffering of others, which is why our community, a little tiny JCC that's an order of magnitude smaller than just about any JCC that you guys may be involved with, has directly helped, at this point, over 400,000 non-Jewish Ukrainian refugees, because it was not done for us, and we're angry that it wasn't done for us, and indifference is the reason 6 million Jews were murdered. Therefore, we can't be indifferent when we see suffering. And I will tell you one last thing. What an honor and privilege it is, considering what our community has gone through in living memory, the Holocaust and 50 years of communism, that we are now in a position to be able to help prevent the suffering of others. So for those of you who haven't been to Krakow, please come and visit us. You'll come saying Kaddish, and you'll leave saying Shehechianu, Shabbat Shalom.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, this congregation has never arranged a trip to Eastern Europe. I think we clearly have an invitation. The only challenge for me, Jonathan, is that I'm a true New Yorker. I don't know how to ride a bike. So if the Ride for the Living has a tricycle option or something to that effect,
We have a 5K walk, actually, for the non-riders, so.
that might also present a different challenge, but most important, message. No, that's, no, we'll talk. But Jonathan, thank you so much for being here and again sharing that incredible story. And I think there's so many things that you said that really will stick with me. But one of those, I think, in particular, is the nature of our sort of way of viewing things, right? What you talked about really is an entire philosophy of life, and so many choices that we don't realize that we have a chance to make. So much of our existence, so much of our time as Jews has been where other people made the decisions for us and the results of it. So here you lay before us, I think, right, in Krakow, here in Sag Harbor, Jews around the world, right? When these moments happen, how do we respond? And I think you've given us and clearly the community in Krakow, Poland, a remarkable way forward. So, Jonathan, thank you, and I hope you know that you and your wonderful family are welcome here in Sag Harbor anytime. I'll invite us now to turn back to our Sidurim, to our prayer books, to page 586 at the very bottom of the page. Again, page 586, we'll rise in body or spirit. Aleinu l'shabech.
Aleinu l'shabech l'adon ha'kol l'tetu ha'leotzer breshit shelo ha'asanu k'goyei ha'ratzot velo ha'asanu k'mishpatot ha'adama shelo ha'asanu k'alkeu kahem v'gor aleinu k'kol ha'monaham anahatu kornim u'mishlachim u'modim lifnei mehem alchei halamachim hakadosh baruch hu. Page 591. V'nemar v'hayadonai lemelech ha'aretz v'yom lahu v'yom lahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo 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 echad.
Invite those in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We think first of those who've passed in our community in recent months: Heather Abrams, Stephen Dickman, Michael Fagenbaum, Sharon Lee Goldblatt, Barbara Goldfarb, Harry Heller, David Carlin, Morris Kramer, Leonard Lauder, Ann Lieber, Jeanette Meyerowitz, Carol Nadell, Phyllis Rowan, Gloria Shapiro, Carol Shapiro, Luis Silberman, Randy Wasserman, and Joel Wintner. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for David Aminoff, Ray Berman, Lillian Diner, Benjamin Deinitz, Rose Doctorow, Louis Dornfeld, Andrew Ruben Ecker, Evelyn Frankel, Daniel Karp Goodman, Elaine Gruenstein, David Harris, Bernard Emmanuel Jacoby, Saul Kaplowitz, Ariana Cravat, Dolores Loverde, Louis Morris, Aileen Phillips, Norma Polsek, Phyllis Samuels, Louis Schoenbach, Ethan Schwartz, Susie Schwartz, Vera Sims, Barbara Simon, Nancy Deinitz Spitzer, Eric Strasser, Andrew Weiner, Isidore Weiss, and Harry Zuckman. In addition to those names that I just read, if anyone is saying Kaddish for anyone we did not mention, and you'd like to mention their names? I invite the mourners to join me on page 598, and if it's your custom to rise alongside them, you may do so at this time. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala u'b'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'li'almei almaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'halal shemei dekudsha berichu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And again, our great thanks to our guest speaker for this evening, Jonathan Ornstein, and to Aya, of course, and to Kasha. Thank you so much for being here. And it's a wonderful thing to see you grow from year to year. And I hope you will always come back and visit us. And a wonderful singer and a wonderful dancer, and clearly a very well-behaved young lady. That is without question. So I hope you have fun while you're out here on the East End. We'll do some fun things this weekend. But we really hope we'll either see you in Poland or we'll see you back here very soon. And of course, I want to thank Ron for really helping to make this possible, because if not asking, right, teaches you a good lesson. If you don't ask, nothing happens. So you sit across the table from a wonderful person, makes it happen. And of course, to our dear friend, Ambassador Lauder, for all the work that he does and all the work that all of you are doing in Eastern Europe to rebuild this life. It really is a remarkable thing. I hope I'll get a chance to see it in person myself. So a lot of announcements of which I'm going to tell you at the outset, I can't get through all of them. And they also seem to have disappeared, so I'm going to do this mostly by memory. The first, of course, is to join us next door as soon as our service is over for our Oneg Shabbat. Embarrassed to have to ask this, but this is sponsored Oneg that anybody... Tonight is Rona? No. Rona is tonight? No, it's next week. Next Friday. I wouldn't forget the Roneg. Come on. Well, in any case, just a reminder, I suppose, Onegs are always available for sponsorship as are kiddishes, so we welcome that as well. But we have lots of great things to eat, so I hope that you are hungry. We've got some good local snacks for sure. Also, a reminder, services begin tomorrow at 10 o'clock here at the temple, and also it being the first Shabbat of the month, our Torah study using the Torah Women's Commentary will be at 12 o'clock, again here in the temple or on Zoom. I'll be facilitating that discussion for this month. Reminder also, speaking of heavy conversations, tomorrow evening at sundown, mark the beginning of the fast of Tisha B'Av, and as for many years we share that with our friend Rabbi Jan Urbach and her community of Gesher, the Bridge Shul. For those that got the email, just to make sure everyone knows, if you'd like to be in person for it, it will be at Rabbi Urbach's house for safety reasons. That is not an address we're sharing. Unless you would like to go, contact me and I will share that information. Otherwise, you can join on Zoom, and then we will welcome everybody back here on Sunday evening to do Mincha Mariv and break the fast. And Tisha B'Av, again, complicated holiday, and even in the best of years, these years especially, right? There's a lot to unpack, a lot to experience, and if you've never done it before, don't be a stranger, okay? Come to both, come to any. We'll be happy to see you. Also noting this upcoming week, I'm sure there are a number of things, but Thursday evening, if I'm not mistaken, David Gruenstein and I, apparently, are going to have something of a discussion on science and religion, and in this case, once again, dipping into the world of Maimonides. And remind me again, David, is probability?
It's providence and probability.
I love that. Providence and probability. Not the place, right?
What?
Providence, not the place, but the divine effect.
We could change it,
We could change it.
but currently it's the other kind of.
It's the other kind of providence.
Whether it conflicts with science.
Right. So as many of our discussions, right, trying to break down the barriers that suggest that these two things exist opposite each other, when in reality the conversation comes together. And I want to thank David and Steve so much for bringing these great programs to our temple. And throughout the month of August, we have Thursday night events in which, again, I'm doing most off the top of my head, but certainly, right, Steve, we've got some time together. And now we're welcoming back Joshua Gruenstein, who's going to tell us all about the world of robotics, I believe, this time around. So AI to robotics, we got a lot to discuss. So just please join us for all of those things. Next weekend is a very busy weekend, so I'll make sure I touch on all of them. The first is, as I said, we said goodbye to our student cantor, Will. Next week, we welcome our new student cantor, Emma Aronson, who is going to join us, and she is fabulous, and we're very excited to have her here. And very important when we welcome a new student cantor, okay, the reason we keep getting all these wonderful student cantors is not an accident. It's because they feel loved when they are here. They feel respected when they're here. So if you show up, it means a lot. It means a lot. And on top of that, it is also our HUC Shabbaton, so we welcome our friends from the Hebrew Union College, in this case, Cantor Jill Abramson, who is the director of the Deborah Friedman School of Sacred Music, and a former student cantor here at Temple Adas Israel, and has actually been to visit us in the last couple of years, I think also when we were still at the church. So we're happy to have her back here as well as part of that Shabbat. And a reminder also that Saturday after services will be the Shabbat luncheon in honor of my dear wife and our Director of Community Engagement, Lou Geffen. So this is a great opportunity. Please do RSVP though, so we make sure we have plenty of food. And I know she's excited and she's prepared something to teach for all of you, which I got a sneak peek at and is beautiful and brilliant as always. And of course, I will remind everybody, I believe it's the following weekend in which we are welcoming member of Knesset Gilad Kariv, Rabbi Gilad Kariv, and Anna Kozlansky, who is the CEO of the IMPJ, the Israel Movement for Progressive Judaism. And that Sunday, we are also, I believe, welcoming Professor Menachem Ben Sassoon from Hebrew University. So we've got a lot of things. That's not even touching on the Shabbaton for me at the end of the month, which is a whole other piece of it, which a lot of people are working on. And I'll just say, while it's not generally my thing to say, I believe that the journal is still open and available until next week. Until at least the 10th, Nicole said. So we're going to go with that. All right. So with all that, I'm sure I missed a lot of things. And believe it or not, when Tisha B'Av rolls around, it tells us high holidays are not far down the road. So you'll be seeing a lot of stuff about that as well coming, and we're looking forward to that very much. But yes, of course. But Celia, you got to tell the people what to do. And it's part of the purview of the rabbi. And I know for sure, because I see the analytics, not all of you are looking at your emails. That is for sure. So, we'll turn to page 626. Let's close with Ein Keloheinu. We never really do it on a Friday night. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadoneinu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adoneinu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Please rise for Kiddush, page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabahat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yahom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'shabbat. Chaim, now question. Aya, do you like challah? Would you like to come up here and have some challah with me? Would you want to come up? You can come up with your mommy. You want to come up here? Come here. Come on up. You look like somebody who might enjoy a challah. Okay. All right. So I just want you to take your hand, just kind of put it right over the top like this. If you
Just like this? Yeah, with mommy?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Okay, now you have to have the first bite. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Thank you. That was great. You did great. You could be a rabbi. You know, remember.